Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was the most disappointing thing since my wife. I mean, how much more could you possibly fuck up ancient times of Star Wars? And while I eventually plan to divorce my wife next year, the unfortunate reality of Knights of the Old Republic is that it will be around forever.
Star Wars has absolutely everything going for it. It has the most merchandise out of any franchise, and the one thing that makes Star Wars shine is video games. Post-2012. Every Star Wars game before the 2012 purchase was awful, and there was no wonder why it was all made non-canon. George with his greedy asshole decided to pump out shit after shit before Disney bought it off him and Star Wars was better off. One piece of shit was known as KOTOR, released in 2003, a year after the second worst Star Wars movie. This game's release killed the potential, and when I played it, I was still bitter about Anakin hating sand and Yoda having a lightsaber. And to have another prequel that was even more divorced from the original trilogy made me piss myself. I had to get a pissing tube so I wouldn't wet my pants again. Point is, they should have waited a year before releasing this game. This game was so bad that Sony and the PlayStation 2 didn't want it, even though it was part of the Star Wars brand, and the only system at the time that accepted it was Microsoft's Xbox, who were desperate to sell their console after this game, because one launch title isn't enough to give you a successful brand. It eventually came out on PC, but that was no surprise. What game doesn't come out on PC eventually? They slapped the name Star Wars on the cover, despite it having little to do with Star Wars, besides the few minor references like Jedi and familiar planets. My movies are better because it had familiar faces in it. The only familiar things in this game is the universe. Catherine gave me the keys to the franchise to make a masterpiece which is 2/3 of a trilogy, with just the one bad film I retconned into oblivion. But back to the game. Let's start up the game and see what happens. The game was published by LucasArts and developed by BioWare. BioWare was shit until EA bought them, and since this was before EA owned BioWare, that's a bad start. It's like hearing George Lucas has complete creative control over his own story. The game starts up and what do we see? The main villain is on the main menu, surrounded by fog. The music in the main menu is so depressing that it doesn't make you hyped to play the game. If this was a horror game it would fit more, but just listen to it. Compare this to The Force Awakens where this is done correctly. The main menu on DVD also takes place in a dark room, but listen to the music and watch the screen. Far more optimistic and gets you hyped to watch the movie. So let's start the game. The game poorly explains how you're supposed to customize your character when you start the game for the first time. And what's this? Only 2 genders to choose from? Those sexist pigs! Who designed this game? Seems like it was a collaborative effort between Casey Hudson, David Faulkner, Mark Brokington, and Drew Karpshin something. One of these guys is probably the guy who only decided to have 2 genders. And what's also sexist is back when this game was canon, the male player was the canon option. What's the point of having a female option then? I would prefer it if the canon choice was gender neutral. But since we don't have the choice for a gender neutral player, we'll just choose, how about male? Please forgive me, gals. Anyways, let's customize our character. Well, at least it gives us different races to choose from. Asian, black, white, and wait, what the hell? Taylor Gray? The guy who played Ezra Bridger is an option for the playable character? Well, let's choose him. Just like every other RPG, you have to choose attributes, skills, and feats. Let's start with the attributes. You got strength, which determines melee damage, dexterity, which determines dodging shit, constitution, which determines health and well-being, intelligence, which determines the number of skill points and helps with tech skills, wisdom, which determine the force, and charisma, which determines charm. My recommendation? Get every attribute to a 10 at least, then max out intelligence and spend the rest on strength. Fuck ranged weapons, you'll have to go melee the whole way around. Melee does the most damage. I know you love watching Han Solo shooting stuff, but ranged weapons are weaker than in the original trilogy, and you aim less accurately than a stormtrooper. Then there's skills. First, there's computer use, which is just hacking, demolitions, which is placing mines, stealth, which is sneaking around, awareness, which basically allows you to detect stuff, persuade allows you to convince other people of shit, repair allows you to fix stuff, Security allows you to unlock locked doors, although you could just bash your way through doors instead. And treat injury, which allows you to heal more health with med packs. You're best off choosing persuade and treat injury as a first priority, and then choose whatever shit you want after that. Then you get to choose a feat. You only get one choice, so it's best to go with something related to combat for the first couple of levels, because believe me, you rarely ever level up. This game only levels up when it feels like it. After that, you choose a name. Let's just give Taylor some bloody recognition and go with Taylor Gray. Then you press play, then the Star Wars opening comes up on screen. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Promising enough, except the video's in 144p quality. It's quite bad. The 1977 theaters had more quality than this. Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic. 4,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire. Wait, what? 4,000 years? Are you serious? So this is the big problem with this game. It has no fucking familiarity. Since this was before even Yoda was born, you have nothing to relate to. Back to The Force Awakens, I avoided alienating the fans by including all their favorite aspects of the original trilogy. Han, Chewie, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2, Luke, Lando, Nyan, Akbar, and way much more. But the problem with this game is that it's completely divorced from the original films, having little connection to them except for being part of the same universe, and the fact that it's also a prequel. Prequel bad. The Republic verges on collapse. But we know it's going to collapse because of the films, duh! We know it lasts for another 4,000 years. Prequels suck. They're so predictable because we already know what's going to happen, so the stakes are gone. I would have preferred that we just imagine what the Clone Wars was. Because what are stories but mystery boxes? Darth Malak, the last surviving apprentice of the Dark Lord Revan, has unleashed an invincible Sith armada upon an unsuspecting galaxy. I don't like the wording of the last surviving apprentice, because throughout the game, Revan is established to have only had one apprentice, Malak, and we don't hear any of the other apprentices. It's like we were gonna have more apprentices on Revan, but then they changed it to only one apprentice, and forgot to change the title crawl. And when you look on Wikipedia, it says Revan only had one apprentice around the time this game takes place, and that's Malak. Then it says he has unleashed an invincible Sith armada upon an unsuspecting galaxy. And this makes me furious. People are butthurt that I increased the number of starships in The Rise of Skywalker, when this game does the exact same thing. Pulls an invincible Sith armada out of its ass. Why does this get a free pass but mine doesn't? Crushing all resistance, Malak's war of conquest has left the Jedi Order scattered and vulnerable as countless Jedi Knights fall in battle, and many more swear allegiance to the new Sith Master. Again, we know that the Jedi won't fall for another 4,000 years because this is a prequel. Prequel bad. In the skies above the Outer Rim world of Taris, a Jedi battle fleet engages the forces of Darth Malak in a desperate effort to halt the Sith's galactic domination. Again, this is a prequel. We know the Republic won't fall for another 4,000 years. God damn it, prequel bad. So in 144p, we see a Republic ship fly towards the planet Taris and get assaulted by the Sith fleet. We then cut to the player, who I'll just call Taylor since that's what I named him. Anyways, despite approaching the Sith fleet, Taylor is sleeping in the crew's quarters. What the fuck? So yeah, no one bothered to wake him up before the battle started. A guy runs in the room, tells us about the ship we're on being attacked. Taylor has two options. Who are you? Or the Endar Spire. Both make Taylor look like an idiot, as he doesn't know who his bunkmate is or what ship he's stationed on. The guy introduces himself as Trask Olgo, telling you that he's his bunkmate who you've somehow never met because you work opposite shifts, which doesn't explain why you've never seen him before. The rest of the dialogue options has Taylor be informed on who, what, when, how, and why, which is something he should already know in-universe. There couldn't be a subtle way of informing the player what's going on, instead of the player character forget shit? The dialogue is pointless, and look at how long it goes on for sped up. Look at how much shit there is. It really takes you out of the game. Look at The Force Awakens. The pace is so fast that it keeps you hooked. Here, the only thing really showing the intensity is the music. If you turn the music off, you see the game for what it really is, unengaging. After all that, Trask tells you that we need to go to protect a Jedi named Bastila, and you need to equip yourself, and you don't have the option of saying no, so you go to your footlogger and get some pathetic loot. Then the game teaches you about switching characters. We switch to Trask Olgo, who we then use to open the door. Then when you think we'll be able to explore just a little bit, A straight white middle-aged man contacts everyone on radio and tells them to go to the bridge. Trask tells us about the guy. His name is Cartho Nassi, and he's one of the Republic's best pilots. A title I use for Poe Dameron, except it's Resistance, not Republic. But he's fighting for the Republic, so it's essentially the same thing. Then we get another cutscene. Seriously, it couldn't just let us play the game? We watch a Republic soldier fight 2 Sith troopers, and we don't step in to help. The soldier ends up getting killed before Trask gives us the go-ahead to fight the Sith troopers. You'll notice right off the bat that the combat is turn-based. Fighting these idiots is easy, actually. All you need to do is click on them with a specific attack and they'll die. It's recommended that you get Master Flurry early on. It does the most damage, even more than a power attack. So anyways, we kill the Sith trooper and Trask gives us med packs. We fight past Sith troopers, then we fight past Sith troopers again, and yawn. This game is so simplistic. A problem with this game is that the animation is awkward. I've seen games on the Nintendo 64 with better animation. Knights of the Old Republic has pathetic animation. I don't know if this is because of engine limitations or staff experience, but either way, this should have been improved. So anyways, you come across a Jedi fighting a Sith. While not as fast as the prequels, they're still way too fast. OT lightsaber fights are better. And again, instead of helping, Trask tells Taylor to stay back and watch it like a fucking movie. Sometimes the fight goes on for a bit and the hits are randomized. But even after seeing the Jedi win, she dies, and Trask comments on how we could have used her help. But what was the point of this? We don't even get a mention of the Jedi again, she's just forgotten. Anyways, we finally make it to the bridge, and we fight the Sith. And if you ever sipped a shot of whiskey every time I said Sith, you'd have a hangover before the end of the prologue. Since this game actually has Trask invincible for the prologue, it actually lowers the stakes in the prologue and fails to make me give a shit. So anyways, when we clear out the Sith, Trask informs us that Bastila's not on the bridge. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Then when we progress a little bit further, Trask runs ahead saying that he knows there's something behind the doors. Wait, does he have the Force or something? Then we see Darth Bandon, a guy we'll encounter later in the game, and Trask decides to give us time to escape, so we are forced to go on without him. When we get to the next section, Karth, who I had forgotten about until this point, informs us that besides him, we're the last remaining crew member on the Endar Spire, and that we have to get to the escape pods. Wait, so Trask was killed that quickly? I wonder why Darth Bandit didn't catch up to us. Maybe he didn't know which direction we went. But anyways, we kill the Sith and we get taught repairing and hacking. And we use either to get rid of the Sith patrols. Then we see Karth in the flesh and tells Taylor to get into the escape pod and that there will be time for questions later. One of the things the writers hope you don't notice is that Karth ordered everyone to go to the bridge, but he doesn't go to the bridge himself. That makes him a coward and he let his crew members die. In fact, I don't feel any sympathy for the Republic. Early on, we didn't help the Republic's soldiers and just let them die.
Let it die, let it die, let it shrivel up.
I thought we were supposed to be on the good side, but right now, I'm feeling like I'm on the bad side. We haven't seen the Sith do anything bad yet. Back to The Force Awakens. At the start of the movie, Kylo Ren orders the village to be executed. We get to say a war crime committed in front of us, and it makes us hate the First Order. But the Sith don't do anything bad until the end of the Taris segment. Makes you think why it took so long. But anyways, we use the escape pods and crash land on the upper city of Taris. And oh boy, we've only ended part 1. In part 2, we'll talk about Taris. Thanks for watching, and until next time, what are stories about mystery boxes?
If there's someone under the age of 20 who says his least favorite game in the series is EA's Battlefront 2015 because it was the most boringest one, then I suggest you shut this review off right now before I carefully explain how much of a fucking idiot you are.
So where we last left off, we crash landed on Taris after the god-awful prologue. We meet a guy who broke the fourth wall and died off screen in less than 10 minutes. We then meet a guy who led the entire crew to their deaths on the bridge, and we're forced to share an escape pod with him. We use the escape pod to land on Taris. I was very angry throughout the entire segment on Taris. You know why? Because people were angry that I took Coruscant's aesthetic with Hosnian Prime, yet when this game does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise.
It just isn't fair.
So anyways, we see Taylor having a dream of a Jedi fighting a Sith. The dream is pointless and tells us nothing. Then after that pointless cutscene, Taylor wakes up. Karth tells tells us about what happened. A thing that this game does is tell rather than show. Show don't tell means nothing to the writers. And just like Trask at the beginning, look at how much shit there is. You ever hear of getting to the point? This shit just goes on for way too long. So let me try to break down what all this is. Karth explains that he dragged you out of the wreckage and stumbled into the abandoned apartment we're in. He somehow had enough credits to rent it and kept you there. For some reason, he only decides to explore the planet when you wake up. Karth didn't bother to try and find Bastila by himself and only now looks for her when you wake up. Karth explains that the planet is under quarantine and that no ships can land or take off. Karth informs Taylor that they weren't the only ones to land on Taris. A bunch of other Republic escape pods landed in different places. We landed in the planet's upper city, aka the safe area of the planet. How very convenient. We can choose when we want to encounter dangers. We can also ask Karth about the universe, which is something our characters should already know. After that, we finally explore the planet. But first, let's ask Karth some shit. If we choose to ask Karth about his backstory, he seems reluctant to talk to us about his past. And we already know where this is going. He's one of those characters. We have to earn his trust. That's just a cheap-ass way of learning about the character's history throughout the game instead of at the very beginning. I hate it when games do that. So unless you read the Knights of the Old Republic comment set 5 years before this game, you'll have no fucking clue what Karth's story is until he feels like telling you. That is so annoying. So if we ignore all that, what's the first thing to happen when we leave the apartment? The game forces you into a confrontation with a Sith. A Sith, if for some reason, is talking to a Duros guy about some shit we have no interest in. He kills the first guy, then turns around, seeing us, and he can tell right away that we're Republic fugitives. I wonder why every Sith we encounter can't tell we're Republic, especially since I'm wearing a soldier's uniform. So I throw an ion grenade to take out the droids and they all die right away. Well, that was too easy. Too bad grenades later on won't be as useful. We can explore the apartment building, speak to a janitor called Kadir that doesn't do much for the game, it's just fucking filler. There's also a girl named Dia who has a bounty on her head because some douche tried to take advantage of her or something. The game doesn't explicitly say what the douche tried to do. We can also go into other people's apartments to steal their shit. When we go outside, we have to explore a bit before we know what to do. I walked in the cantina, hoping I could get some directions or clues on what to do. There isn't much in the cantina to do. And god damn it, could you run any slower? Since this is before you unlock Bastila, you can't use force speed. This must have frustrated a lot of speedrunners who wanted to finish the game as fast as possible but being held back by the player who isn't really running. It's more like jogging. So after jogging for an hour, we come across the medical facility, ran by Zelka Forn. And he only serves one purpose, to give us a side quest about finding a cure for the rat ghoul disease. And some guy gives you an alternative, asking you to give the cure to a hut named Zax for a fee. And oh boy, before you get to the next area, we have another scripted confrontation. This game establishes a big bad on Taris, the Exchange on Taris, led by Davik Kang. And to make you hate the Exchange, we have two bounty hunters about to take an old man away because he couldn't pay off his loan. You have the option to ignore or interfere, and since I'm trying to represent the kindness of me and my friends at Walt Disney, we will save this man's life. Then we give him 100 credits to help him pay off his loan. See? We're not the corporate hacks you claim us to be. We are selfless and we look out for others. Now I just need to put in console commands to get my credits back. So we finally make it to the other side of the upper city and we come across a trio of drunks. And again, I offer to buy them a drinks to get more light side points. I then think to look in another apartment building where we help a man named Largo who looks similar to Girl on Two Fingers and one of the drunks. Are they all related or something? No. They just got lazy and only designed a couple dozen faces, then decided to use the same face models for different characters. Seriously, explain to me who these three guys are. Cloning is more common than I thought. Anyways, we stumble into a Sith interrogation by lucky chance. An alien is being questioned by Sith troopers over missing uniforms. For some reason, this game feels like every encounter, we are destined to arrive and resolve it. None of the encounters feel natural. But back to the game, the Sith trooper says that they know it was him because of, and I'm not kidding here, security footage that showed his face. Every single Aqualash in this game looks the same. How the hell did they identify him? We get to choose to interfere or ignore. And since I have to be a good role model for my friends at Walt Disney, we will choose to save the alien's life. So we kill the bad guys and then talk to the alien. The alien thanks us and reveals that he indeed stole uniforms from the Sith. We ask him for spare uniforms, but he says he already sold them to the Hidden Becks, a swoop gang in the Tarisian lower city. So we have to resort to taking uniforms from the Sith we just killed. But we're only allowed to collect one of them. I'll get back to that later. So exiting the apartments, we come across another pointless addition to the game. We got an old neo-Nazi. I'm saying Nazi because the actual pronunciation is too offensive. And besides, being a Jew, this guy is offensive. Why did you guys include him? This guy basically formed the Star Wars version of the KKK, known as the Anti-Alien League, and he seems to be the only member. He basically talks shit about aliens and advocates genocide, and there's actually an option to agree with him. That's like if we had a Civil War RPG and you could join the KKK and kill black people. Fuck this neo-Nazi, and fuck BioWare for including him. This will bring back too many memories for minorities. Okay, we finally get to the Upper City Guard. He basically tells us that we either need authorization papers or a Sith uniform. So I equip my Sith uniform in front of him, and he lets us down on a whim. Even though Karth is going down with us and he's not wearing a uniform. God, I hate this game. So the only way this would make sense is if you're going down alone. But who would do that? You'll need all the help you can get. I take back what I said about this game being easy. The game becomes Dark Souls as soon as you enter the lower city. The first thing we see is some weird thing taunt a group of guys, and then a Rodian taunts them back, and then they fight. We were just introduced to these characters and they're already killing each other. And it isn't until later on that we even know what's going on. Then we see choreography worse than The Last Jedi. Maybe if the animation wasn't so janky, I wouldn't be complaining. Then, for no reason at all, the winning team turns on us and starts attacking us as well. Lucky I had Karth with me, otherwise that would have been game over. Seriously, the fuck's up with the change in difficulty way too fast. Anyway, maybe we should go into the cantina. We go into the cantina room, what do we see? 3 guys are trying to greet a guy I can only describe as gruff, short stuff, telling them to fuck off. Counts to 3, and then pulls a blaster and kills all 3 of them. Why is this guy in the cantina if he doesn't want to speak to people? That's sort of the point of going into a cantina, to socialize. Anyways, the cantina also establishes a new character. Some little girl gets some business from 2 Rodians who basically try to start trouble with her. She calls over her Wookiee friend Zalbar to deal with them and the Rodians back off. We can talk to the little girl who introduces herself as Mission Vale. We can then talk to her about Taris and shit, then when we're done, she leaves with her Wookiee friend. Hint, if you meet a character with a unique face, chances are that they're important. So anyways, there's not much else. I walked out of the cantina and talked to the guard of the Hidden Back base. This is where we find out what's going on. There's a gang war going on between the Hidden Backs and the Black Folkers who for some reason target everyone. We eventually convince the guard to let us into the base. There isn't much to the base besides Gadon and Zedra. After a minor incident with Zedra, we talked to Gadon about what he knows about the escape pods that crashed on Taris. He trusts us right away with what he knows for some reason, just because we don't look like the Sith. He tells us that his enemies, in the gang war, the Vulcans, got to the escape pods that landed in the Undercity first and basically captured Bastila somehow. And he mentions her by name too, which brings us to the next problem. Gadon says that the Vulcans plan to give Bastila as a prize to the winning rider of this year's swoop race competition. So wait, the Becks are aware that the Vulcans have Bastila captured, but the Sith don't? How could they not know? This game establishes the annual swoop race as a famous Tarisian tradition. The answer to all the Sith problems are there, but they never ever hear about it. So what the fuck? Okay, so let's ignore that. Let's just say that somehow the Sith didn't find out. Let's just move on. Gadon offers to help you by offering you to let you ride for the Hidden Becks if you get a part for a swoop bike the Becks invented which the Black Folkers stole. If you get that part back, you can ride in the tournament and get Bastila back. There are so many holes in that plan that I don't know where to start. So Gadon is proposing that you ride in the swoop race despite having no experience. It's worse than Anakin's role in the Phantom Menace.
Now this is pod racing.
All this does is establish Gadon Feck is a fucking idiot. Zedra even points out that they need one of their best riders later in the game, so what the fuck? So ignoring that too, Gadon says that you also need to get to the Undercity. To get there, you somehow have to find that little girl from earlier in the game mission. You're wondering how a kid could get shit done, but somehow she can. We need to find her and her Wookiee friend. To get to the Undercity, you will need security papers to get past the guard, who is somehow more strict than the Upper City guard. Why do the 2 guards have different rules? Shouldn't they be the same? So Ganon offers to trade the Sith uniforms we possess for the security papers. We are forced into trading the papers. We don't even have an option like, I'll think about it. This game forces you into a linear path constantly. So we swap the Sith uniforms for the papers, and basically, we now have a clear way to the Undercity. And that's the end of part 2. In part 3, we'll go down to the Undercity and everything onwards till the end of the Taris segment. Now before we end this video, here's today's sponsor, me! I'm sponsoring my own video. Do you like pop figures? Do you like plagiarism? Well, guess what? I have my very own pop figure now, available for only $19.99 each. Get them at your local collectible stores or wherever they sell pop figures right now, while stocks last, because they will be selling fast. And until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes?
I want you to tell me who the main character of KOTOR was. I can tell you it's not Taylor. He's just on some boring mission he doesn't really care about. Plus, he's not on the main cover. Wasn't Bastila Sean. She's just some snarky Jedi who the game wasn't really about specifically either. You might be thinking that it's Jolie, because he was just some loser who ended up saving the Republic by helping blowing up the Star Forge. But the player doesn't meet Jolie until 10 to 20 hours into the game. And the things happening around him are out of his control, since he doesn't make choices. Plus, if the protagonist isn't in the party for the majority of the game or anything important, then there's no real tension or drama. Without that, there's no story. So the conclusion is that there isn't one.
So where we last left off, we got our security papers from Ganon by trading our Sith uniform. Now we have a clear way to the Undercity. So after fighting our way to the lower city guard and also meeting a Mandalorian mercenary, we finally make it to the guard. We show him our papers and he lets us down. When we go to the Undercity, you know who is there to greet us? 2 beggars ask us for 5 credits. We learn that the Undercity is home to a group of people called the Outcasts, banished from the Upper City and forced to live in the filth and darkness. This community makes no sense. Many of them hate living down here, and I can't blame them. First looks makes it look miserable, but what I don't get is that the elevator to the lower city is right next to the outcast village, meaning that if they didn't want to live there anymore, they could just take the elevator up to the lower city and work their way up there. And what's gonna stop them? The Sith guard? He's only just one guy. A group of armed outcasts could kill the guard and the turrets and voila, you don't have to live down there anymore. But then writers overlooked this plot hole for some reason. Point is, the outcasts are dumb and deserve to be down here because of their limited number of brain cells. But despite that, when we come across the outside gate, some woman begs us to save her husband. We step in to help, showing the selflessness of me and my friends at Walt Disney and how we help others. We wander a bit into the open Undercity and we meet Mission again. She complains about the fat pigs from Return of the Jedi kidnapping her Wookie friend, planning to sell him into slavery. Since Mission is the only way you can get into the Vulcan base, we have to help her with her problem. The game doesn't give us the option of killing Mission and taking the codes to get into the Vulcan base. And seeing how inconsequential Mission is later in the game, it makes you wonder why the game didn't give you the choice. In fact, it might have actually made the narrative better. I'll get back to this later in a different part. Since we have to recruit Mission, the game delays the plot to get us to free Zalbar, who isn't that far when we enter the sewers. So thankfully the game doesn't waste your time as much as it could have, but it's still unacceptable. We free Zalbar, who swears a life debt to us for freeing him. And we are forced into accepting his vow, even though Zalbar and Mission combined don't do much for the overall plot. This just serves in giving us 2 throwaway companions who are there in case you need an extra gun. And they're only useful up until you get Bastila. After that, you're better off taking Bastila and Karth, at least until you get another Jedi character, but that's a discussion for later. So after the game wastes our time getting 2 filler characters, we can finally get to the Vulcan base. Mission informs us that there's a Rancor in front of the alternate entrance for some reason I'll never understand. How did it get there? You know what? Fuck it. There's a Rancor there somehow. So we get Mission to deactivate the shields, and she serves no purpose other than that. So we fight our way to the back entrance, with piss-poor choreography. Then we get to the Rancor. One thing we can do is get some synthesized odor that is conveniently on a severed arm near the Rancor, and put it in the pile of bones with a grenade. Then the Rancor will eat it and swallow a grenade. Either that or throw a subsequent amount of grenades at it. Either way, we have a clear way into the base. There's a lot of pointless stuff in the base, And this is probably a good time to bring this up. You need a large amount of med packs to seamlessly make it through the game, since there's no other way to regain health other than leveling up or going to an area where you can return to the apartment then go back, but you won't get that in the Vulcan base. And as for leveling up, as I said before, this game only levels up when it feels like it. You're best off trying to reactivate the droids and use computer consoles to kill the guards. This zigzagging all over the place is fucking annoying. I'd rather just have a linear path, thanks. There isn't much to say until the next scripted encounter, other than there's a shit ton of enemies who are hard to fucking beat. The next encounter has Kandon, the right-hand man of the Vulcan leader Kashyyyk, offer us money to go kill Gadon. I would have said yes, only for the fact that you get dark side points for betraying Gadon. Seriously, what's up with the morality bar? It does nothing for the game. In fact, it makes you want to have to make light side decisions, because the alternative is that your character will look real ugly. And since I'm using the likeness of Taylor Gray, I have to keep him looking fine. Anyways, we refuse Kandon's offer and kill him and his goons. We take the prototype accelerator, and it's a long way to the Bex if you wanna beat the game. Okay, so after an hour's jog, we make it back to Gadon and give him the prototype accelerator. Gadon tells us to stay in the Beck base since the swoop race is tomorrow. So it says here that you spend a restless night in the hidden Beck base, which doesn't explain how you're still able to complete. If anything, you should be, as the Scottish would say, fucking knackered. So we make it to the swoop race tracks to compete. The game in this section changes genres. First, this was an action RPG, now it's a racing game. A shitty one at that. Basically, to win the race, you have to reach the finish line as fast as you can. The prototype accelerator gives us a boost, since this race is too easy. As the Ithorian says, we beat people who've been doing it for 20 years with ease. I hate it when people dare call Rhea Mary Sue. Yet when Taylor is scripted to only progress the game by winning his first swoop race, it just infuriates me.
It just isn't fair.
So with no logic or explanation, Taylor wins the swoop race. The announcer congratulates us, and Kashyyyk shows up to present the prize to us. But the thing is, he accuses us of cheating, the greatest sports movie cliche. He explains that we were using a prototype accelerator, giving us an unfair advantage, so he's going to withdraw the victory prize. Then Bastila, the woman from the dream earlier in the game, makes an entrance for herself by force pushing the cage open and kicking the Vulcan, who dies immediately. Wait, if she could do that from the very beginning, why didn't she do that earlier to escape? It's almost like we were destined to show up and resolve it. So Kashyyyk orders us and Bastila dead, and we kill them all instead of them killing us. Bastila doesn't even greet us. She's just a snarky bitch until she realizes we're with the Republic. So we take Bastila back to Koth and we talk about getting off the planet. Bastila suggests asking around in the cantinas, so we have to find an NPC by asking around. Oh boy, I can't wait. I hate it when RPGs do that. But just when you think we're gonna have to ask around to find an NPC essential to the plot, a guy walks up to us, telling us he's a messenger for the Mandalorian mercenary Canderous Ordo. He tells us Canderous wants to meet us. Oh, thank God. I actually have a name to look out for. That's the first true positive to come out of this game. I only wish we didn't get the impression that we would have to play Where's Wally. So basically, we go into either cantina and Canderous greets us. He tells us that he saw us in the swoop race, compliments us, and gives us an offer. Basically, he thinks that a guy like us, who was crazy enough to ride that swoop bike in the race, would be crazy enough to break into the Sith military base to steal the planetary launch codes. So wait, he thinks that just because we won a swoop race, we would be able to fight our way to steal shit from the Sith? Whatever. So anyways, Canderous says that he has a plan to escape Taris, and he needs your help with it. He says that his boss has a droid custom made by a shopkeeper named Janice Nall, and you can use the droid to slice into the Sith base. He says that normally he would do this himself, but everybody knows who he works for, and that the Sith would know who to get the codes back from. This doesn't explain why he couldn't just wear a mask or helmet, since he does that in the sequel, so why couldn't he do it in this game? Fuck it, let's just go get the fucking droid. So when we go to Janice's store, we tell her Canderous sent us. Janice then says that she'll sell you the droid for 2,000 credits. What? 2,000 credits? You gotta be fucking kidding me! Okay, just give me a minute. all better. So we get the money to pay for the droid, and T3M4 joins our party. We use him to slice into the base, his one and only purpose in the story. He's one of the most useless companions in any RPG. Anyways, when we enter the Sith base, we convince the receptionist to leave our role. After that, we make it to the Sith governor. So after a pointless chat with the governor about our strength in the Force, we fight. And for some reason, he doesn't have a lightsaber, despite being important enough to govern an entire planet, and he makes an offhand remark that he will get his lightsaber once he kills us. So despite all odds, we kill the Sith governor after 50 attempts because this game is Dark Souls. We collect the planetary launch codes off his corpse. We jog out of the Sith military base and go to the lower city cantina. We meet up with Taris again, who tells us the plan. Basically, he says that he doesn't like how his boss hasn't been paying him what he promised, so he plans to steal his ship, the Ebon Hawk. Basically, he'll bring us to his boss's estate, saying that he brought us as a potential recruit for the exchange. Then when Davik accommodates us, we go find the Ebon Hawk. So Taris takes us to Davik's estate. But before we move on, let's see what the quote-unquote bad guys are doing. Because as I said before, they're yet to do anything bad. We are properly introduced to our two main villains. Fleet Admiral Saul Kareth walks up to the last airbenders like,
"You summoned me, Lord Malak."
The search for Bastila is taking too long. We cannot risk her escaping Taris. Destroy the entire planet.
The entire planet, Lord Malak. But there are billions of people on Taris. We'd be slaughtering countless innocent civilians, not to mention our own men still on the surface.
Your predecessor once made the mistake of questioning my orders, Admiral. Surely you are not so foolish as to make the same mistake.
Of course not, my Lord Malak. I will do as you command, but it will take several hours to position our fleet.
Then I suggest you begin immediately. You are dismissed, Admiral.
Yes, Lord Malak.
okay, finally we have something to hate the Sith for. Too bad we had to wait a few hours of conventional playtime to finally get it. But I don't understand why Saul objects to destroying Taris, since we later learn that he destroyed Karth's homeworld Telos without mercy. And another thing, Malak doesn't issue an evacuation order to all his troops still on the surface, so he's trying to bomb his own military. It's worse than Order 66, which did pretty much the same thing. Prequel bad. And another thing, Saul says that it will take several hours to position the fleet. But do you expect me to believe that Taris and Taylor escaped Taris in such a short time after Malak ordered the destruction of Taris? It's bullshit. I hate how people didn't like me slapping the 16-hour time limit in Rise of Skywalker, yet when this game does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise.
It just isn't fair.
So anyways, we meet Davik and the bounty hunter from earlier in the game. It turns out his name isn't Gruff Short Stuff, but rather Calo Nord. Taris and Calo Nord banter back and forth before Davik stops them and gives us a tour of his estate, showing us a glimpse of the Ebon Hawk and basically leaves us in peace in one of the rooms. For some reason, he leaves Taris in the room with us. It's almost like he knows that he's a
Raider!
Whatever, so Taris basically tells us that now that we're inside, we have to find the Ebon Hawk. And for some reason, every enemy we encounter is hostile. I know Davik said the guards would shoot on sight if we went elsewhere in the estate, but Taris is with us. He's one of Davik's top 2 men. Why can't Taris just say that he's showing us around or something? Again, this makes no sense. You only have 2 ways of getting to the Ebon Hawk: slicing into the computer that opens the hangar, or freeing Davik's pilot. Either way, when we get to the hangar, the Sith just so happen to be bombing the planet, and Davik and Calo catch us trying to steal the Ebon Hawk. So we fight the both of them. You'll notice that Calo is invincible, so it's a dead giveaway that is being saved for later in the game. So focus all of your fire on Davik. Just throw grenades or something. Anyways, after we kill Davik, Calo gets covered in debris and we take the Ebon Hawk. Taris says we have to pick up the rest of Taylor's friends, and then we have to get off the planet. So we do just that, and we don't think to rescue anyone else. Anyways, we escape the planet, and before we can jump into hyperspace, we got incoming fighters. And oh boy, we've got the worst part of the game. Everyone hates turret sections. They're annoying, and they're just there to pad out the game. And this turret section is no different. Instead of doing something fun like flying the ship, we have to shoot down enemy fighters. Just aim and shoot.
Boring!
Anyways, we defeat the Sith fighters and we jump into hyperspace, on course for Dantooine, as Bastila says that there is a Jedi refuge there. And that's the end of part 3. In part 4, everything in the Dantooine segment will be explored. And until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes? What can I say about the most overrated video game prequel in gaming history? Well, I can say this. Who has 2 thumbs and totally saw it coming? This guy. That's right. I've been waiting years for these bragging rights and now it's finally come. I knew from the first trailer that this was gonna be a bad video game. So where we last left off, everything we did for the people on Taris was made utterly pointless when the Sith bombarded the planet, which infuriates me. Everything we did was made pointless aside from the XP we got and the friends we made, half of which don't contribute much to the overall plot. A lot of this game could have been trimmed, to be honest. Most of it is pointless. But fuck it, let's just get to the planet. When we land on Dantooine, Bastila says that the council on the planet have requested an audience with Taylor, so we have to follow Bastila to the meeting. On the way, some lady helps pad out the game by telling us we're not wearing the customary robes of the Jedi and scorns at us. We tell the bitch to fuck off several times, but I think you need to tell her 3 times before she backs off. This character is ultimately pointless and does absolutely nothing. So we go to the Jedi Council, who introduce themselves. We got the Pink Twi'lek, the Yoda clone, Shut Up About Maz Kanata, Carl Fogfertson from Up, and Master Dorak. Pink Twi'lek tells us that he feels a connection to the Force with us, and that Bastila spoke highly of us, which breaks character. Bastila was established to be a snarky bitch ever since our first interaction, so I find it incredibly tough to believe that she told the council anything other than how much we deserved a spanking for speaking up against her shitty attitude. So what the fuck? And this character assassination is vital to the plot because Pink Twi'lek tells us that they are considering us for Jedi training, even though we are 20 plus years too old. And after some boring banter that I skipped because this game makes the prequels look like a ride at Universal Studios, the Jedi tell us to go sleep. And of course, this leads to another Force vision, one that makes even less sense than the last one. We have a dream with no context that is super convenient and extremely vital to the plot. It's Malak talking to Revan in an unknown location, where they basically discuss shit about something called the Star Forge, and how the Jedi will banish them or something, I don't know. The dream doesn't get any explanation until very late into the game. Karth tells us that Bastila walked out of the Ebon Hawk suspiciously. So we go to the council and the Yoda clone tells us the impossible. He tells us that we and Bastila shared a dream, and we have formed a Force bond with Bastila. Nothing we are told makes any sense. We are not just told that we have a Force bond, but that the bond developed faster than Master and Apprentice. That's not how the Force works. How the fuck did a bond develop between the two of us? We haven't even started our Jedi training yet. Fuck me, this game sucks. Why do people praise this garbage? Whatever, so the Jedi Council talk about how they need more recruits. Yet they only decide to train one guy out of the age limit. Whatever, let's just get to the training montage. Disclaimer, the following footage is intended to be as nostalgia-pinging as possible. It is not intended for the anti-fan service Nazis. Viewer discretion is advised. So after the training montage, Pink Twilight tells us that our training will soon progress to the next rank from apprentice to Padawan. But first, we must do a pop quiz to memorize the Jedi Code. My word of advice? Look up the Jedi Code on the internet and have it next to you. These idiots forgot about the internet. Next, we build our lightsaber. But first, we need to get a crystal with a certain color. So we go to Master Dorak to do another pop quiz about our personality. The answers we choose are simplistic, and none of them are us thinking outside the box. In the end, Dorak decides we should be a Jedi Guardian, but we still get a choice out of the 3 Jedi classes. But I'm gonna stick with Jedi Guardian. So we craft our lightsaber, and thank God there's no minigame related to it. But too bad there's a million other things coming up that serve to pad out the game. So when we craft our lightsaber, we can swing it in a prequel fashion. Prequel bad! Another thing, we level up with Force powers, and what's this? Force heal? Remember when fake Star Wars fans trashed me for including this totally reasonable ability into the saga because it somehow breaks the universe? Why does Force heal get a pass for being included in this game, but not in the Rise of Skywalker?
It just isn't fair.
Anyways, Pink Twilight tasks us with our last challenge. He tells us that there is a grove a mile away from the Jedi Enclave that has been corrupted by the dark side. Pink Twilight decides to not tell us the full story, making this task a huge risk to us. Leaving the Enclave, we bump into an old man named Nemo, and a guy tells us that there are Mandalorian daughters that killed his kid, and the Council haven't done anything about it. Of course they haven't. You might call this stupid, but I actually beg to differ. It's actually consistent with the Jedi. It was established that when the Mandalorians tried conquering the Republic, the Jedi refused to help, and Malak and Revan defied the Council to step in and help, forming the Jedi Crusaders. It's actually a big plot point in the sequel, but even within the context of the first game, I'm not surprised that the Jedi aren't helping. So what's the problem? The problem is that the game and the sequel uses ass-backwards logic on why the Jedi didn't help the Republic. It was just something about examining the Mandalorian threat or something. Just fuck it. Point is, there's this side quest because the Jedi are lazy. And like I said in the first episode, am I really supposed to sympathize with the quote-unquote good guys? Or hate them? Because I really don't know at this point. So far, I like the bad guys more, and they semi-destroyed an entire planet. I would also like to point out that there's no common sense way to the Grove. You will encounter at least 50 Kath-hounds on your way there, whether or not you use the stealth skill. You can't use beast control, no. You have to wait for the sequel to get that. And you can't fight them conventionally without taking loads of damage, unless you want to waste your time hunting Kath-hounds for XP. But let me tell you, you'll be doing that all day. And if you're unlucky, you'll be stuck trying to solve a murder mystery involving a guy who was shot in the back by either one of 2 suspects. I tried to figure out who it was by concluding that fat people always lie. Just kidding, I looked it up, because I couldn't be fucked playing LA Noire. So I send both guys to prison and go on my way. And when I get to the Grove, guess who's there? Some feline-looking Catwoman is there, and she attacks you. Of course, we defeat her, and then we stop mid-fight for no reason to talk. She introduces herself as Juhani. Juhani who? By the end of the story, we have no idea what her surname is. Let's compare this to another Star Wars story where this is done correctly.
I'm Rey.
Rey who?
Said she slain her master Quattro during training and she fled the Enclave in shame. We use our persuasion skills to convince her to go back. After 5 fucking skill checks, which is way too much. She thanks us and says she'll return to the Jedi Council. So of course we go back to the Jedi Council, who congratulates us on redeeming Juhani. And we are rewarded with Jedi robes. So we speak to the Yoda clone about the dream we shared with Bastila. So he says that Malak and Revan were exploring ruins east of the Enclave. What? So let me get this straight. Malak and Revan knew about the Jedi Enclave, yet never targeted it once they turned to the dark side and waged war against the Republic? Did both Malak and Revan just forget about the Jedi Enclave? What the fuck? This is a convenience level of 6 trillion. There's absolutely no fucking way they would have forgot such an important target. Now, if they said that Dantooine was protected by a large Republic fleet, then that would be forgivable. But the fact that they didn't do that, and the writers were just retarded, just makes me very angry. The Yoda clone tells us they already sent a Jedi to investigate, but he hasn't returned. Of course he hasn't, how cliche. So we go to the ruins and here's what happens. The first room, there's nothing. Second room, we come across an ancient droid who speaks in a language we don't recognize, even though this language is spoken later in the game on Rakata Prime, and we understand it there, so why not here? The droid eventually speaks in a language we finally understand. Taylor and Bastila recognize the language of being from the Selkath from a planet called Manaan. The droid tells us that he is called the Overseer. He says he basically regulated slaves while the construction of something called the Star Forge. The droid, when asked, also says that he's been in the ruins for over 20,000 years and talks about an ancient empire far back in the past. When we ask about the Star Forge, the droid tells us it is an ancient super weapon of power far beyond anything we've ever imagined, but nothing more than that. We ask the droid where we can find the Star Forge. The droid basically tells us, like the ones who came before us, we have to prove ourselves worthy. However, the Jedi who came to investigate before us was killed. Well, finding Nemo was easier than I thought. I don't know why it took Marlon an entire movie. Anyways, to progress the game, we have to go through both the left and right doors to solve whatever puzzle they have there. So I decide to go to the right first, because left first is always unlucky, as the Romans would say. There's a droid there who takes fucking forever to kill with lightsabers. You're better off trying normal swords, maybe. I figured out that using the Force caused the droid to take a good amount of damage. So we take a look on the computer, which does nothing. If we try to kick the computer, it just says that your foot hurts. Not a joke that landed, I'm sorry to say. But anyways, when we figure out how to get the thing to work, we're forced to do a stupidly easy pop quiz on naming 3 death-giving terrains. After that, we go to the other room, which has the same thing. We go to the computer there, which answers the opposite question regarding life. After that, we have a clear way to the first step to the Star Forge. And what we see pisses me off. We come across a star map. Bastila recognizes the locations on the map. Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Manaan, and Korriban. We soon realize these are actually a piece of a puzzle to lead us to the Star Forge. So basically, we need to go back to the council and inform them on what happened. But before we go any further, I need to point something out. Fake Star Wars fans wouldn't stop bitching about how much they hated the hunt for Luke Skywalker with the star map idea. So why does this game, which does the exact same thing, and more prominently too, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So we go back to the council, tell them about what we found. Master Dorak looks through the archives and finds nothing. And so, the point of the rest of the game, we are to find the Star Forge. They never assign a master to accompany us. They just expect us to find it on our own, which keeps you asking questions. So why does this game get a free pass for making you ask questions, yet when I present mystery boxes to your face, I get nothing but scorn?
It just isn't fair.
So we are to go to all 4 planets to find the specific location of the Star Forge. We are to leave Dantooine immediately because, as the Jedi Council puts it, Jedi are being slain left and right as the war goes on. And the longer we take, the more Jedi die. But before we end part 4, there is a notable side quest we can undertake. When we were told to investigate the ruins, some guy yells at the council about his missing son, and the Jedi tells us to solve this guy's issue. Well, now that the main event is over on Dantooine, I should probably speak to the guy at his estate. We tell the droid guarding the estate we are from the Jedi Enclave. The droid tells us that his master, the guy from earlier, Alan Matale, will meet us outside. So our audience with Alan Matale goes like this. Alan Matale tells us about his rivalry with the head of his house of Sandral Nurik and how much he hates him, blah blah blah. Basically, he says that he spotted Sandral droids on his property, and he destroyed all of them. Then his son Shen went missing. So the only place to look is the Sandral estate. We find a corpse close to this Matale estate, and when we get to the Sandral estate, we inform the droid that we are from the Jedi Enclave. The droid lets us in, and Nurik comes in. We tell him that his own son is dead, we give him his son's journal, and before we can ask about Alon's son, Nurik tells us to fuck off. This would have been the end if not for Nurik's daughter Rahasia coming in, and telling us about how her dad kidnapped Shen. The reason she cares about Shen so much is because of a Romeo and Juliet affair. Oh boy, we all know what happened the last time Star Wars took inspiration from Shakespeare.
I'm haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me. My heart is beating, hoping that that kiss will not become a scar.
So anyways, Rahasia gives us a key card, and we basically go through the back door and destroy all the Sandral droids. We find Shan, who tells us he'll only go if Rahasia comes too. Fuck. So we go to Rahasia again, tell her about Shen's request, and then she tells us to go back to Shen because she'll be waiting for us outside. We go to Shen, and we go outside. Shen and Rahasia talk about how much they love each other, and then Shen's dad shows up, as does Rahasia's dad. I know it's a bit late, but sometimes I just skip the dialogue because it's too fucking long. I'm just gonna choose a random dialogue option and then... Wait, what's happening? Fuck! I skipped into the dialogue! Wait, what? Taylor! No! 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 What if KOTOR 1 was good? Like, really good? What if I were the head of LucasArts, and the idiot who wrote KOTOR was like, this is the script for the game I'm writing, and I took the script he wrote, and ripped it up, and then fired him? No! Fuck! Shit! Bitch! Cunt! Why didn't I listen to the dialogue? I can't believe it! Now I've ruined Taylor Gray's likeness! He's going to kill me! Fuck! Alright, calm down, JJ. You can still fix this. We can still play light side, we can restore Taylor's likeness, and end the game on a high note. So let's try to do that. So we can go to the planets in any order we want, but from what I hear, the Legends canon order is Tatooine, then Kashyyyk, then Manaan, then Korriban. So to get the most natural experience in this shitload of fuck, we'll be going to these planets in order of what Legends canon says. Not that Legends canon is good, I'm just trying to make this dumb fuckery consistent, because there's a reason why the EU was all made non-canon to pave way for this. Since Tatooine is the first on the list, we'll be going there. We take off to where the Skywalker saga began, and we are forced into a cutscene we can't skip because this game is Padtropolis. It likes to pad things out. It's fucking bullshit. And you know, this game really likes to cut to the bad guys even if it doesn't need to. Given what happens later in the game, we didn't need this cutscene. I guess the writers felt like they had to tell us what the quote-unquote bad guys are doing. So Malik walks up to Saul, who gives us pointless exposition about the Star Forge's power that tells us nothing except it's powerful. But Malik changes the subject to Bastila. Rude. He somehow knows that she survived the destruction of Taris with no context. The game never tells us how he knows. He just does. So Saul informs Malik on shit he should already know. Saul tells Malik that she was aided by Carthonasi, the prick who led the Endar Spire crew to their deaths in the battle above Taris. I am baffled to hear that such a bad tactician is a decorated war hero of the Republic. But as we learn later in the game, decorated war heroes are actually shitheads. But we'll get to that in another part. So Malik basically asks how he got that information, and Saul says that he got it from an eyewitness. And guess whom shows up? Motherfucking Gruff Short Stuff. How the fuck did he survive being buried in debris? And another thing, why is this game praised for the Calo Nor death fake out, yet when I did the same thing for Chewie in The Rise of Skywalker, I get nothing but scorn?
It just isn't fair.
When Malik asks how Calo survived the encounter, Calo just says that he's hard to kill. So why does everyone have a problem with me quoting a non-canon Star Wars movie to explain how Palpatine survived, yet when Calo says that he's hard to kill, this game gets nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
Saul recommends hiring Calo to capture Bastila, as his reputation as a bounty hunter is, well, reputable. Malik tells Calo that he desires Bastila alive. Then we get this exchange.
Lord Malik, forgive me, there is something else. May we have a private audience away from the ears of the common soldiers?
I trust you are not wasting my time, Admiral Karath.
I promise you will be very interested in what Calo has to tell you about Bastila's other companions.
I wonder what this is alluding to. So anyways, we have a dream about the location of the Star Forge on Tatooine, and it seems to be in a cave. Well, that's useless. Earth has a lot of caves. Whatever. Point is, when we talk to Bastila about this dream, she tells us that she can probably find it in a cave. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Also, to pad out the game, that stupid Wookie tells you that something's wrong with the food rations. As if I should give a shit, which I don't. This is just a stupid side quest designed to waste your time, especially since you get nothing out of it if you decide to complete it properly. So we go out the docking bay. When we leave the ship, a guy from the Zerka Corporation tells us to pay 100 credits for the docking fee. And since I couldn't be fucked, we use the Force to convince him to fuck off with the docking fee crap. So he lets us go, and then we go. On the way, we meet an alien who loads a shipment of Gizka. Okay, this time we are forced into a side quest we shouldn't have to accept. Basically, the writers or the developers, whoever's responsible, wanted to bug us by forcing us to have small, high birth rate animals that you can't get rid of with traditional means. You need a specific way to get rid of them. Fuck you, whoever designed this quest. So anyway, since the vision showed us that the star map is somewhere in the Dune Sea, we need a permit to leave Anchorhead. And since the only place to get them is the Circuit Corporation office, we'll have to get it from there. When we go inside, we see a Duros yell at the Zerka manager about the Sand People. We'll get to him later. The game actually gives us a break as the Zerka manager decides to give us the authorization card for free in turn for wiping out the Sand People. And since we need to go to the Tusken Raider village to progress, this is a minor convenience, but thank God I didn't have to waste my time. Leaving the Circuit Corporation office, the Duros from earlier tells you that there's a peaceful solution to the Sand People problem. He says there's a translation droid that can't communicate with the Sand People. We tell him to fuck off, but I got curious about the translation droid. So we go into the store, and what I saw ruined the game as if it wasn't already ruined from the start. There's a droid for sale called HK-47 that doesn't talk like a normal droid. He always starts his sentences with what kind of sentence it will be, and it's fucking annoying. They just made him describe his sentence to pad out the game, and I know it might not sound like that, but when he does it all the time, it's probably padded out the game by at least half an hour. Especially if you bring him along with you. So we go to leave Anchorhead, and oh boy, I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it's fucking everywhere. Look at how much sand there is. I never knew there was this much sand in the whole galaxy. You better like sand because you'll be here a while. And who's there to greet us when we walks outside? Some lady tells us about how she's planning to kill her husband. Who the fuck does that? When we come across her husband, Taris, he asks us to help him, and Bastila tells us to leave him. Some Jedi, am I right? HK-47 probably has the worst line here. This line was so poorly acted that even I could do a better job. Want me to prove it?
Commentary. I say we blast the meatbag and save you the trouble, Master.
I say blast the meatbag and save you the trouble, Master. But good luck having the patience to get to him, because let me tell you, it takes you all day to run across the desert. Using the force speed ability or the turbo cheat might help, but it still takes all day. You could watch the shortest Star Wars movie faster than you can travel across Tatooine in this game. Adding speeders to this planet would have helped, ya fuckers. But they didn't add speeders. Why? Because that would make the game shorter, and they need to pad this game as much as possible. So basically, we kill some sand people guarding a random path, and we use their attire as a disguise to get into the Tusken Raider village. Since I forgot to bring HK-47 to the Tusken Raider base to act as a translation droid, we have to wipe all the sand people out. On the way, we encounter the chieftain of the tribe, kill him, and take the location of the cave that has the star map. So anyways, we have another section of the Dune Sea, where we come across the fucking ancestor of Bib Fortuna named Comad Fortuna. And the simple fact that they made him a relative of Bib just pisses me off. Why doesn't Rey get away with being Palpatine's granddaughter, yet when this game introduces an ancestor of Bib Fortuna, it gets nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
His introduction has his buddy foolishly run into the cave and get eaten. I have no comment. Anyways, this essential NPC tells you that he needs help with killing a crate dragon. We are forced into helping him by getting some bantha fodder and luring banthas with it. Fighting some sand people during that, and bring the banthas back to Comad. And then the crate dragon comes out and it dies. Well, that was anticlimactic. So we say our goodbyes and walk into the cave, and oh boy, we finally find the star map. But there's a bunch of other shit before I can even think of ending part 5. Because we got the worst boss in the history of video games. Gruff Shortstuff confronts us with his goons and we kill him. Also, before we fight, Gruff Shortstuff is so far away that there's no way we could speak conventionally. He'd have to yell, and even then, they might not even hear him much, and only make out a few words. So we kill him predictably, and go back to the Zerka manager and tell her that we killed them. We killed them all. Not just the men, but the women, and the chieftain too. And since the reward she gives us isn't enough, I use the mind trick to convince her to give us more. And just when I'm about to finally leave, the game decides to waste our time with another side quest involving Bastila. Basically, a Twi'lek walks up to Bastila and tells her about her mother's sickness. Earlier in the game, if we choose to speak to Bastila, she tells us that she hated her mother a lot. So we go into the local cantina and wow, Helena Shan is just as snarky as her daughter. Guess it is genetic. Her side quest involves getting a holocron from her husband's remains. So where do we have to go? Back to the cave again, which is 5 million light years away. We get the holocron and go all the way back, resolve shit with Bastila and her mother since they hate each other, and finally we get to leave the planet. Whew! Oh, and by the way, swoop racing on Tatooine sucks. Now this is swoop racing!
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was the most disappointing thing since my
left off, we visited a watered-down version of Tatooine in the quest for the Star Forge, and perhaps we are now at the worst part of the game, Kashyyyk. Why is it the worst part? Stick around to find out. Before we begin, let's talk about the planet we're going to, Kashyyyk, the worst planet ever. Introduced in the dirty prequel known as Revenge of the Sith, Kashyyyk served no other purpose than to give us blatant fan service. It was basically, oh look, it's Chewie. Oh wait, sorry, it was introduced in the holiday special. But Kashyyyk was handled better in the holiday special anyways. I refuse to give the prequels credit for anything. Prequel bad! I like Chewie as a character, but seeing a million of them is overwhelming. And since the game has you interact with countless Wookiees, it's so overwhelming. One Wookiee was way better than a million. That's the point of comic relief. They are foils whom the protagonist is supposed to play off of, and it's incredibly easy for the comic relief to overstay their welcome. The fact that we have to spend a sizable portion of the game with the walking carpets is so fucking annoying. Compare this to how a real Star Wars story handles Wookiees. Not like this, but this. My movies are so good. So when we dream about Kashyyyk, it shows us that the star map is on the bottom of the planet somewhere. Oh come on, why can't the star map be right where we land? Why can't we use scanners or something? The game never does explain why we can't find the star map easily. So anyways, we get off and an Ithorian of all species greets us at the docking bay for the Zerka Corporation. You might be asking why I give a fuck. Now it's not because I don't like Hammerhead, I quite like the design actually, but the issue is that in the sequel, the Ithorians and Zerka Corporation are rivals. And since it was over restoring Telos, which was destroyed before the events of even this game, that makes me very angry. So why the fuck is an Ithorian working for Zerka? That's like if we had a black or Jewish guy join the KKK. Oh wait, that actually happened. My boy Adam Driver was in a movie about it. So anyways, this makes the two games inconsistent. I hate how people shit on me for not having an enforced roadmap. Yet when this game series, which wasn't even good enough to get a proper third game, has many inconsistencies and no clear direction, it gets nothing but praise.
It just isn't fair.
I mean, this game series clearly had no roadmap, especially with the MMO retconning almost everything that happens in the second game. It was so poorly thought out. But that's a discussion for later. We mind trick the Ithorian to fuck off, and guess who shows up? Motherfucking Comad Fortuna is here in case anyone missed him. It's fucking stupid. This guy does absolutely nothing in his second appearance. He's just there to pad out the game. It's a waste of code. Quality over quantity. That's the message I'm trying to convey. So of course I didn't decide to bring that stupid Wookiee along because he's a pointless addition to the game. I take that back. He's important, but not in a good way. The game basically nags you into bringing that stupid Wookiee. And no, I will not call him Zalbar. He's just a dumb Wookiee made to remind us of Chewie. I hate how people complain about me ripping off characters from the original trilogy for The Force Awakens, yet when this game does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise!
It just isn't fair.
So the point is, we leave the safety of the Zerka outpost, and the next area is one of those kill all those enemies to get to the other side type of areas. Having beast control would have been nice, idiots. And what the hell is that? It looks like something out of a 30s monster movie, not Star Wars. So I use the Force to push the Kinraths out of the way. I take back what I said about this game being Dark Souls. As soon as you get the Force, you'll never ever lose. There are some tricky bits, but we'll be smashing these other fools like it's nobody's business. And fuck off, stop nagging me to bring Zalbar. He's useless. Fuck the idiot who wrote this story thinking he was a good character. He's not. Then again, we have another scripted confrontation designed to waste your time. We come across the Zerka patrol with a dead Wookie. We ask the group what happened, and the captain says that this Wookie slave got a little rebellious and they had to put it down. So essentially, the Zerka corporation is here because of slavery. Slavery, bad! So we use the Force to persuade the captain to get a transfer, and we get light side points. One step towards restoring Taylor's likeness. So after killing a shit ton more enemies, we come across this Wookiee who tells us to go talk to the tribe leader Chundar. Why we can't just kill him to get past him, I have no idea. So we take a long hike to Chundar, kill some Dark Jedi, and this leads us to the important bad thing I was talking about earlier. So this Wookiee guard tells us that Chundar sent a team to search the ship, and guess what they find? If you guessed Hidden Spice, then you'd be wrong. They found Zalbar. And this is where we get one of those game's many reveals. Ooh, this game loves its reveals. So when we meet Chundar, we find out Zalbar's entire backstory. He's royalty. Okay, I had no idea Wookiees had royalty. And they shouldn't be. Chewie was just comic relief. His species didn't need a backstory. Zalbar and Chundar are brothers, and their father was the tribe leader. And the reason Zalbar was exiled because he attacked his brother with his claws. You see, Wookiees using claws for anything other than climbing and shit like that is a big no-no in Wookiee culture. I think in a novel or a comic or something in the Legends timeline, our boy Chewie was attacked by a Wookiee with his claws over his wife, and said Wookiee was exiled. Here, Zalbar did the same thing, but as we learn later, for a far nobler cause. So Chundar sends us on a quest we have to complete in order to get Zalbar back. We have to hunt down a mad Wookiee and kill him, and the game doesn't give us the choice to kill Chundar to get Zalbar back. If you threaten to do so, he just says you won't survive because you wouldn't be able to kill all of them. You wanna bet? So anyways, we get kicked out. But at least we can get into the Shadowlands, and this is where the game goes from terrible to absolutely fucked. The quality of this game decreases the more you play. So we go past the guard and come across a Wookiee called Churwal, who after we help, they refuse to talk to us. I'll get to him later. So to get to the Shadowlands, we get to Gorwookan. What the fuck does that mean? That is the stupidest name I've ever heard of. I hate it how people say Snoke was a dumbass name for a villain. So why does this game get a free pass for having stupid names? You remember Nemo was the name of an old Jedi early in the game. This game has such stupid names, so why don't I get a free pass?
It just isn't fair.
Whatever, let's go to the Shadowlands. We basically go explore for about a minute, and then we meet a guy with a lightsaber. He's able to kill 4 animals in 4 hits, 1 killing blow for each. Nobody misses out. Then he notices us, introduces himself as Jolie Bindo. Wow, they cannot stop with the dumb names. What kind of surname is Bindo? Anyways, Jolie tells us to go talk to him in his hut, and he'll talk about shit with us. So we go to his camp, and fuck me, the wildlife are making so much noise.
I'm sure you are, but you have to take time to listen. You shouldn't try so hard to make new enemies.
Seriously, I feel like I'm going fucking crazy. If there wasn't subtitles, I wouldn't be able to tell what he's saying. But the thing is, sometimes I can't read it properly because the noise is prominent. It's goddamn distracting. So point is, Jolie tells us that he might know some shit about a star map. But if we want to see more, we have to do a chore for him. So what we have to do is getting rid of a Zerka patrol without killing them. So I go to the patrol and the guy treats us like garbage. So since I want these guys to live, I try to save their lives by mind tricking every single guard to make a run for it. I get dark side points for some reason, as if trying to convince someone to leave their post for a slaving business is an immoral action. It's not. These idiots don't understand morality. So I keep mind tricking the guards and keep getting undeserved dark side points. Fuck the idiot who thought I was being evil here. After
After the patrol captain has all of his henchmen die, he realizes he's ran out of men and needs to retreat. Problem solved. So we go back to Jolee and here's what he has to say.
Yes, I heard the fuss of it. I told you I wanted a non-violent solution, and I had my reasons for it. You should have thought about that. Zerka Corporation will find the bodies and blame the Wookiees. This may cause more troops to be deployed. That means more disruption.
How? Don't you know that there's one Zerka patrol officer that made it out? The witness isn't gonna blame the Wookiees. He's just gonna say every single one of his henchmen tried to run. This inconsistency is most definitely laziness, since Jolee says the same thing if you directly slaughter the Zerka Corporation, so they just scripted him to do the same thing. Lazy. So anyways, despite failing him, he says, fuck it, I'll lead you there anyways, making this quest totally pointless. So anyway, we grab him as a companion to get through the force field door, and the next segment of the game is basically like a maze, so I'll skip all the navigating and get to the star map. So we find the star map, and of course, to pad out the game, we have to do a stupid puzzle. We have to excessively talk to an alien on a computer. After some banter with the machine, we figure out we're supposed to do a personality test. So the test begins. First question, Zalbar and we are detained, and if we don't accuse each other or some shit, we serve 1 year in prison. If we accuse him and he doesn't accuse us, you know what, fuck it. Let's just go with what the game thinks is the morally correct answer. Wait, that was incorrect? So after a warning, we get asked another question, and since I couldn't be fucked with this pop quiz, I decided to take apart the star map. The system sends protective droids to kill us, so of course we kill the droids and go back to the system. It determines we are worthy and opens the star map. What was the point of taking the test? Sounds like a waste of time. Whatever, we've got the coordinates, but before we leave, we have to get Zalbar back. So we have to find that mad Wookie. After another hour of searching, we find a Wookie gone feral who attacks us. We defeat him, and we explain that we came to Kashyyyk with Zalbar because he owes us a life debt. So basically the Wookie explains to us that he's Zalbar and Chundar's dad. Who the mother is, who gives a shit. So anyways, he says he was exiled from the Wookiee village after learning that Chundar was selling his own people into slavery. He was too ashamed of Zalbar's attack to listen to him. So basically that resulted in his ass being kicked. The game just hopes that you buy that Chundar would be allowed to sell his own people into slavery. I hated how people say that Chewie got cuffed like a bitch in The Rise of Skywalker. So why does this game, that does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So essentially, he says that he will try to start an uprising, but before he does, he says he needs a blade of a sword. So of course this is a fetch quest. Everyone hates fetch quests, right? I hate it how people complain about The Rise of Skywalker was scripted like a fetch quest, so why does this game, which does the same thing, gets nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
I also want to point out that the blade is named after Baka, who is an ancestor of Chewbacca. So why does this game get away with fan servicing everything, yet when I throw references in your face, I get nothing but scorn?
It just isn't fair.
So anyways, we go kill a Kinrath, tie its corpse to a vine, then a discount Rancor comes and essentially attacks us. We kill it, we get a blade out of its hide, so thing is, we go back to Zalbar's dad with the blade, and we basically give him the blade. He tells us he'll go back to the treetops to form an uprising against Chundar. So of course it takes us all day to get to the basket elevator thing. We are forced to kill Chundar's servant, and we can't do a mind trick, so of course we're screwed. Just kidding, we kill him with ease. We go back up, and the reluctant Wookiee from earlier tells us that Zalbar's dad is to confront Chundar, so we go back to the village for a final confrontation. For some reason, we still get a choice of whether or not to betray Zalbar's dad. We don't, and we depose Chundar. Zalbar's dad, basically being in charge now, essentially has he and Zalbar hug it out, and now the Zerka slavers will no longer have a presence on Kashyyyk. The Wookiees will be freed, slavery will no longer, god damn it! Seriously, what was the point? We all know that the Empire will enslave the Wookiees anyways, so what's the point? Prequel bad! Seriously, this planet could have and honestly should have been cut out. Why not go to Hoth? That would be really cool. But because we went to a prequel planet, underwhelming is an understatement. While it might be sweet for some to see Kashyyyk be liberated, the thing is, who the hell would do this? An idiot who doesn't appreciate good games, that's who. Because as soon as I found the star map, I immediately went off planet to progress the game. All the footage I got playing this segment of the game came through save states. I was just curious on what would happen. It's disappointing as hell. So next time, we'll be going to the Rainy Camino ripoff named Manaan. We'll talk to some fish people and shiz. And until next time, what are stories about mystery boxes?
The Act-Man is the epitome of a stereotypical old Republic defending child idiot that seems to populate the internet nowadays. There's a gigantic circle jerk of these people, and you can't go anywhere on YouTube and saying you have a better taste in video games, without some asshole popping up to defend KOTOR. However, the Act-Man is the worst one because he has no life.
So where we last left off, we left Kashyyyk and now we're going to the Sunny Camino ripoff known as Manaan. We are greeted with one of the worst encounters in the game when we get out of the goddamn docking bay. We see a Republic and Sith officer smack-talk each other. This makes me confused. Why the hell aren't these two killing each other? Then when they stop talking, we ask the Republic guy what the problem is. He basically says that the Selkath, Manaan's native species, are neutral in the conflict in the war. They sell the healing substance, also native to this planet, to both sides to make a profit. This game doesn't explain why the Sith haven't outright invaded the planet and enslaved the population, though. The game just hopes that you ignore that. The game does acknowledge that the Sith haven't invaded the planet yet despite being the winning side, but the game just hopes you ignore this. Also, this would not work in any war. Imagine if South America had some all-powerful shit that they sold to both sides of World War II, and both the Allies and Axis had embassies in, say, Brazil. I doubt the daily interactions would be like this.
Yo, fuckface. Your mama looked like if Lenin had a sex change. Yo mama looked like a German shepherd with her eyes gouged out. Yo mama drank so much vodka that she aborted you out the mouth. Yo mama drank so much Fanta that she shat you out the ass along with all the fizz.
Now, it would resemble more of a Call of Duty World War II multiplayer match. This shit makes no sense. So we ask for directions and the officer points you to the Republic Embassy. And since that's our only lead, we have to go there. So we take a long hike and this game enforces that the Republic and the Sith do not get along. This is just filler designed to waste your time. Not the first time actually either. Some fishhead decides to fine us for the docking fee and we use the Force to get him to fuck off. So, of course, we go to the Republic Embassy. And, of course, we ask the terrible character Roland Wan about the star map. He says he has to do a chore for him. Basically, a droid of his has codes vital to the Republic and the Sith have captured said droid. We have to get the codes back. We have three options. Sneak into the base via hangar, sneak into the base via front guard, or sneak into the base via key cards or something. We go for the front card approach. The first one requires combat, the second high persuasion, and the third high intelligence with math. So of course we go and do the second one. We do repetitive questioning on a Sith spy, and of course we have to convince him to give us the password. And the password is so long that no human could possibly remember it. So we go to the Sith base and give the code to the Sith guard, but of course it's never that simple. The woman at the front desk recognizes our status with the Republic, and of course we rampage through the base, killing every Sith in our way, until we find the codes. And of course when we get out of the base, we come across a cop who's there to arrest us for multiple murder and damage of property charges. And of course, the game turns into a court game like Ace Attorney. So basically, a guy comes up saying that he's our arbiter. The name they basically have for lawyers or attorneys or whatever in this game. Of course, we say we're better suited to defending ourselves, and here's what you have to do. Basically, plead not guilty, then when they ask you what you were doing there, say that you were lured in with a job offer, and when you were questioned with what started the violence, say that you refused and you attacked. Bam! And they let you go on a whim based on a lack of evidence. How stupid are these fish? Whatever, that's only the start. Because some woman named Alora calls out Jolie and tells him that his old friend Sunri has been arrested for murder. For some reason, we're supposed to buy that we just got away with many murders on a whim, and Sunri's being charged with one murder, yet they're investigating like a motherfucker. You get the idea. This game is inconsistent, it makes no sense. I hate how people say that the Sith fleet in The Rise of Skywalker made no sense existing, yet when this game pretty much does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise!
It just isn't fair.
So we go back to the judges to get involved in the case, and they let us be Sunry's arbiter immediately, despite us having no experience. So not only does this game not take notes from the real-life legal world, but they also defy common sense. Why would a florist be allowed to defend someone in court? No wonder we kill so many people so easily, because either there is no law or the law is dumb. You'd think Zerko would have arrested us for killing Dark Jedi and Ankahead, but no, of course not. This game sucks so hard. So anyways, we go talk to Sunry, and Jolie and Sunry have one of those elderly meetups that my dad usually does with his friends. He protests his innocence, and of course we have to go to the hotel where the killing happened. So of course we have to question the witnesses, who didn't actually see the actual murder. They just heard a blaster shot, followed by Sunry running out pretty fast. So piecing together what happened, Sunry was basically banging a chick 3 times younger than him. And I hate it how people shit on me because Lando is gonna bang his daughter, I mean a woman 4 times younger than him. So why does this game, which introduces the same relationship, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So of course, after some interesting revelations, some shady cork-snorting degenerate comes up and tells us we should find out what both embassies are hiding. So of course, I go to the nearby Republic embassy, slice into the computer, and find a recording of Sunry killing Alasa, the chick I mentioned. With this information, we go back to Sunry to confront him. He confesses to the murder, and after failing to mind trick him to confess to the court, I start the court case and rat him out. And so, he is sentenced to death. We talk about it with Jolie a bit, and then we continue as if nothing happened. That's the thing with this game. After you complete a quest outside the main story, the game goes on like nothing happened. In fact, whoever programmed this game was too lazy to detect this issue. If you talk to any of the random Republic soldiers, he talks about how Sunry got free. Bitch, did you watch the trial? Sunry was sentenced to death for a crime he was found guilty for. Did none of the playtesters detect this issue? So we go back to Roland, give him the shit he wants, and so he decides to let us in on a little secret. Basically, he points out that the Republic is hiring a lot of mercenaries here on Manaan. And the reason why is to go underwater to investigate a KOTOR harvesting station that went quiet. Basically, the Salkathan Republic are secretly working together because they realize what will happen if the Sith win the war. So basically, this RPG turns into a horror game as soon as we go down to the underwater station. Along with the unsettling music, we come across a mercenary that tells us that the Salkath have gone insane. Of course, he doesn't want rescuing, so he just stays there where he's been freaking out. What an idiot. And so we walk down the hallway. Jeez, this music is so uncomfortable. Wait, did you hear that?
Give me $20, give me $20, give me $20, no wife in the club. Give me $20, give me $20, give me $20, no wife in the club.
So we explore this area, and we find out what the Merc told us. The Salkath attack us on site, and the game ruins the suspense. You could have made the Salkath terrifying to fight. Instead, the janky animations limits the potential. So of course we go on a long killing spree, killing Salkath and droids. How the droids got activated? This game never explains why or how. Why is it that people shit on me because The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker make no sense, yet when this game does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
I mean, Crazy Salkath would have been just fine on its own. We didn't need robots on top of that. So of course I collect a parachute suit and walk out onto the water in this swimsuit, and fuck! Does this suit move so goddamn slow? So let's use the turbo cheat. So we come across a merc who says he was hired a couple of days ago to investigate and has been hiding out on the surface to hide from the Salkath. How has he not died from starvation, dehydration, because remember the water is probably made of salt, sleep deprivation, and lack of oxygen, because I doubt the suit has enough air to keep him going for days. So he tells us to follow him, and boy, despite not eating or drinking in days, this guy runs like a motherfucker, like he's got a propeller in his ass. And then he gets eaten. And is it just me, or did he switch voice actors in that one scene? Here, have a listen.
I'm a merc the Republic hired a couple days ago to investigate. But all we found was a bunch of insane Salkath killing everything that moves.
Come on, hurry up. Don't just stand there, we have to keep moving. The water is filled with gas.
strange. I'm not sure how they'd fuck that up so hard. They were either too lazy or too stupid and thought the second voice actor sounded like the first, which it doesn't. So of course we make it to a pressure chamber, where two insane humans lock us in and try to bring the pressure up. Of course, it takes one try of the Force to convince the guy to unlock the door. And the guy calms down and tells us that his name is Kono Nolan, and his assistant Sammy have been hiding there for days. And just like the other guy, how are they not dead already? In fact, they could have just had the player come across these two dead bodies with notes about killing the shark I'll mention in a bit. That would have saved time and money hiring voice actors. So point is, they tell us that the Faraxan shark has essentially taken over the station, turning the Selkath insane and tearing apart the non-fish people. So of course we need to find a way to get rid of it. Sammy recommends doing a complicated puzzle to kill the shark, while Kono, being a sucker for big game hunting, just says nah, poison the shark instead. And since I couldn't be fucked doing a puzzle, I installed the poison and kill the damn shark. So with the shark gone, we go up and open the star map. The thing is, what idiot would leave a star map in the sea floor? In fact, without the force visions, how did Revan and Malak find the star maps themselves? It's a plot hole that never gets explained. So basically, we go and head the way out, but of course the game gives us a filler boss. Darth Bandon, a character I mentioned in part 1, confronts us, and we kill him with ease. Oh, did you expect me to talk more about him? Well, too bad, he's not worth the time. So just as we're about to leave Manaan, a fish arrests us, leading to a trial in which we try to use the Force to persuade the fish to let us go. It doesn't work somehow, and we are essentially banished from Manaan for poisoning the Kolto supply. What a forgiving punishment for such a cruel crime. Imagine if someone ate every potato in existence, leading to no more potatoes to grow, and the punishment we got is a spanking. That would be pretty weird, and this is no different. So of course we're banned and we get kicked out. We're not allowed there anymore. The game thought the planet was good enough for us to miss, but it's not. Next time, we'll be going to Korriban, the homeworld of the Sith, because the real homeworld was Exegol. And until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes? How can anyone hate Star Wars, one of the most popular and arguably most important piece of science fiction that still holds up even 40 years later? However, the creator of Star Wars, on the other hand, George I Like to Ruin Everything Lucas, is widely hated for two main reasons. One, he made the abomination prequel Star Wars movies, and two, he licensed the terrible Knights of the Old Republic games to BioWare and Obsidian. So where we last left off, we went to Manaan after being banned from the place, and now we're off to...
What happened? What's going on?
Sith interdictor ship. They must have been waiting for us on the hyperspace route. We're caught in their tractor beam.
Oh, come on! I just want to get to Korriban so we can find the Star Forge. So seriously, how the hell did the Sith find us? By waiting for us in the hyperspace route? That makes no sense. So the point is, Karth tells the crew about his history with Sol Kareth. So essentially this is why we find out why Karth hates the Sith so much. He says that Sol was a hero to him until he betrayed the Republic. When the Sith Empire attacked his homeworld Telos, his wife was killed in the attack and his son went missing in the chaos. He says he swore revenge against Sol, and says that if he gets to him, he will kill him without a second thought. It would have been nice for us to make a connection with Telos, but since it's only mentioned, we get nothing. And yeah, it was in the sequel, but guess what? There's no excuse for the previous entry that made such a big deal out of it and not giving us any sort of payoff. I hate how people complain that my endgame didn't work because we supposedly had no connection to the galaxy before the final battle. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So basically, Bastila points out that we need someone to get us out of this jam. She points out that the Soul will probably watch her, us, and Karth closely. So basically, she entrusts us to pick someone with a plan to free us. So let's look at our options. There's the literal little girl? Nope. What about the kooky old black man? Nope. What about either of the droids? Nope. What about the Catwoman with no surname? Nope. What about the dumb Wookie? He's not here, so nope. What about the gruff mercenary? Nope. So of course we're out of options. I spent all day thinking about who should save us, and in the end, I chose Taris. He is the character I complained about the least anyways. Taris says he can fake a fatal injury so that the Sith will dump him in the morgue. Really? You don't think they'll just finish you off? Whatever, the Sith get us into the hangar and capture us off screen. This game does a lot of stuff off screen, by the way. I hate how people complain that I resurrected Palpatine out of nowhere with no scenes building him up. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
And another thing, are we supposed to believe that the Sith actually captured us? Because I doubt that they could capture someone as strong as us. This is sloppy and incredibly contrived. So anyways, the Sith troopers capture all of us and they have a chat about it. They briefly mention Canderous and finally meet Saul in the flesh. He and Karth banter a bit, which we don't care about. So essentially, Saul tells us that he's going to interrogate us and use Bastila to tug at our heartstrings. So essentially, he just assumes that we care about Bastila whether we decided to engage in the romance subplot or not. Note, if you play as a female character, he also assumes the same thing with Karth. So basically, he starts with question 1. Where's the academy that we got our Jedi training? Since this is a prequel, it doesn't matter what we say. The Republic won't fall for another 4,000 years. So this does nothing. Prequel bad. Besides, it doesn't matter what you say, because Saul just says he's testing you. He tells us that the academy has already been destroyed by Malik's fleet. About fucking time. But the thing is, why did it take Malik this long? This revelation does nothing for us. Not only because this is the prequel, but because the Jedi are completely unlikable in this game. I actually hope that dickwad Carl Fuckfordson died in the attack. God damn it! No! Seriously, they could have had any other of the 3 Jedi for the sequel, but that's a discussion for later. So, next question. What was our quest? Well, we were looking for the Starforge, duh. Question after that, he asks us how we know about the Starforge. Why do you give a shit? We know, okay? So Saul tortures Bastila and tortures all 3 of us after that. Fucking hell, what was the point? Especially since immediately after, Bastila and Karth reveal that Saul knew everything he was asking us and was just toying with us. I just love that cliche. Bastila senses that Karth has contacted Malik. He's coming. Karth basically says that, well, we better hope Canderous shows up in time. And then we cut to Canderous getting out of bed and grabbing his gear. We grab our weapons too, and we go on a small rampage. And after freeing a Rodian, he gives us an icebreaker card, which we use to slice into the computers and break us out. Bastila and Karth say they need to release the ship from the hangar of something, so we have to get to the bridge. So up until we get to the bridge, the game is basically kill all the enemies to get to the next area. What I will give the game is that you will get some pretty good loot. About fucking time. This game only rewards you when it feels like it, because most of the time, you either get money or small scale loot. It's fucking bullshit. So when we confront Saul, Karth, and his goons, he gives us the opportunity to surrender. Karth tells him to fuck off and we fight. If you think it was a challenge, you should know better by now. It was easier than saying the word fuck. So after we defeat him, he survives for a little longer. Saul tells Karth to come closer. Saul tells Karth something before he dies. Then essentially, Karth acts shocked at what he's been told. The game doesn't explicitly tell you what he said. While I would praise the game to adhering to my mystery box philosophy, the problem is that I don't give a shit. Mountains of build-off and the payoff is so disappointing. So after Karth and Bastila banter back and forth for a bit, we go on our way, without either telling us what Saul told Karth. I doubt whatever Saul said it will do much for the story. We all know that the Republic will survive for another 4,000 years. Prequel bad. So after another rampage, we make it to the hangar and then...
Darth Malik.
Oh shit, we're fucked. It doesn't matter what we do, we can tell this won't be our final confrontation with Malik. So this just serves to pad out the game. So essentially, after Karth fails to shoot him, Malik essentially tells Bastila that he spent too much effort to let us escape. Then he addresses us, telling us shit that makes no sense. We ask him what the hell he's talking about, and he laughs, telling us that he's surprised that we haven't figured it out. Figured what out, Malik? Then we get a cutscene of characters in the game repeating dialogue that we heard earlier in the game, before we cut to Bastila and Revan and also the events of what happened. And then we get this. Yawn. I was waiting for them to drop that ball. What idiot didn't see this coming without reading a plot synopsis? But now our worst fears have been realized. Taylor was the Sith Lord we've been looking for. We must act fast if the Walt Disney Company is to survive. Excuse me, I need to do something. Say goodbye, Taylor! Okay, the Sith Lord has finally perished. The Walt Disney Company has been saved. But don't tell nobody. Let the cops find out. So point is, Malik reveals that you were the Sith Lord Revan. This twist makes no sense. Malik explains that the day that you were captured by the Jedi, they wiped your mind clean and reprogrammed you with an all-new identity. What? If that's the case, then why didn't they reprogram the identity to be a selfless, heroic, and all-around swell guy? Why did you give him independent thought to be a cruel piece of shit? Giving the player dark side options makes no sense because there's no way the Jedi would make the Taylor identity a selfish psychopath. Plus, how the fuck did they manage to reprogram a young adult's entire life? Let's be extremely generous and assume Revan is 25 the time this game takes place. That would mean he would be alive for roughly 9,125 days. That's 9,125 days worth of memories and experience the Jedi would have to reprogram. And I know a normal human doesn't remember anything, but you still have to reprogram everything just in case. You'd have to give him a full backstory without contradicting anything. You'd have to choose a homeworld, a childhood, a family, a recruitment into the Republic story, an age, worldviews, mental health, physical health, skills, hobbies, personality, sexuality, and so much more. Even if the Jedi reprogrammer was working on the clock, day in and day out with unhealthy dedication, it would realistically take him or her more than 20 years to come up with an entire backstory. And that's me being generous. So let's assume that they could do all that. How did they expect this plan to work and for no one to spill the beans? You're lucky this plan worked for as long as it did. Who the hell thought this was a good idea? And since a bond was created between Bastila and Revan, how could they not extract his memories if they could replace them? This is fucking bullshit. Now here's how a real Star Wars story does a plot twist.
That's not the worst time. I'm the spy.
What? You?
We don't have much time.
I knew it!
While my plot twists are on par with the greats of Citizen Kane, Sixth Sense, Psycho, Fight Club, and The Empire Strikes Back, the Revan twist, on the other hand, got this reaction out of me.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
So yeah, I don't know why this twist is so well regarded. It's fucking horrible! Maybe in 10 years the superior Star Wars games will make people realize how bad the twist actually was. Just like how 2/3 of the sequel trilogy will be loved in 10 years. So back to the story. Bastila reveals that what Malik says is true. We talk for a while, and then we fight, as Malik decides he wants to finish us off. And for the ultimate Sith Lord, Malik goes down like a bitch. Or at least he would if not for a Bastila intervening and forcing Karth to go on without her. I just love that cliche, and we all know where this is going, so of course we can't go back and kick his ass. We have to go to the hangar to escape. We do a lousy turret section, and we get away. Karth explains to the rest of the crew that Bastila's been captured. Then Karth forces you to spill the beans. You are the Sith Lords. And the crew's response? You're a new guy now, who gives a shit? What the fuck? Seriously, Mission jumps to your defense, and the rest are pretty much indifferent to this revelation. Essentially, it doesn't matter to them, making this twist totally pointless. I mean, not much happens onwards, but if you or anyone but Revan, the game would largely be the same. Think about it. This twist falls flat on its fucking face. It's a sloppy, contrived, predictable, and piss poorly thought out plot twist. It does nothing for the story. A plot twist is meant to redefine the story, to reveal that everything you were led to believe was a lie, and KOTOR doesn't do that. Well, it does, but not enough changes. So basically, we find out that HK-47 was built by Revan, and we happen to come across him on Tatooine. I hate how people shit on me for having Han and Chewie stumble into the Falcon after 30 years. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
And I guess Candace has the one likable character trait, as in the fact that he's not a sore loser.
You defeated the Mandalore clans in the war, Revan. You were the only one in the galaxy who could best us. We had never met one like you before, and never since. How can you even ask if I'll follow you? Whatever you're fighting, it will be worthy of my skill. I'm your man until the end, Revan. no matter how this plays out.
That's the first time I actually liked something about a companion. So basically, Car says that he might as well finish the quest. So on to Korriban. Thankfully, we're leaning towards the end of this horrible game. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes?
I'm Trask Olgo, ensign with the Republic Fleet. I'm your bunkmate on the Endar Spire. Who gives a shit? Seriously? Who cares? This game was made for idiots. You really think they're gonna sit down and listen to this crap? An overdone introduction segment?
So where we last left off, we had everyone indifferent to what could have, and honestly should have, been a big twist. We lose Bastila, and the game expects us to give a shit. No, Bastila was a snarky bitch the entire game. Good riddance, I say. And of course the game expects us to finish the quest. If this game had real choice and consequence, it would have given us the choice to just give up and call it a day. Get someone else to find the star map on Korriban. And let's talk about this planet a bit. Before I introduce Exegol, Korriban was the Sith homeworld. Exegol is a better homeworld in every way because my version is always better. Korriban was so bad that Filoni changed it to Moraband to try and separate the new canon from that dirty old timeline called Legends. So point is, we go to the fake Sith homeworld, where some dealer asks us to buy his shit. No thanks. Then we come across the docking god. Wait, why was the dealer allowed to be in the stocking bay then? You're a terrible god. So he asks us 25 credits for the docking fee, and again, we use the Force to get him to fuck off with it. Then we come across a guy scolding a bunch of Sith wannabes. Basically, the main reason people come here is to try and become Sith. Simple. But Sith Academy is more brutal than trying to be accepted into film school. You have to be top-notch material. You have to be ruthless and willing to do anything, and even then, that won't guarantee you a place in the Academy. I'll talk about this as we go along. These wannabes are worse at answering questions than George Mucus. So point is, the Sith student Sardan is understandably pissed that the wannabes won't piss off, but can't decide how to punish them. So he turns to us to help him decide. Since these wannabes will die anyways, I couldn't be fucked. Go ahead and kill them. And so Sardan does that, and I get dark side points. Why? These were Sith wannabes. They wanted to be evil, conquering, cold-blooded Sith. I should be getting light side points. This game doesn't understand morality. I hate it how people say that Finn defecting was morally stupid because Poe was the one who killed his friend. So why does this game, which is the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So of course we get another taste of shitty students. These ones try to provoke us, telling us that we're fallen Jedi and that we're shitbags, blah blah blah. Seriously, does no one on this planet have any manners? These pricks tell us to tell them a joke. Here's a joke for you. Why did the Metachlorians cross the road? So they could piss off out of the Star Wars universe, of course. But now we're not telling these scumbags a joke. Let's fight.
Stop it. This is boring. Let's just go back to the Academy.
Fine, we'll go. As for you, I'll find you later. Trust me on that.
Oh, piss off! I wanted a fight, but the game just says later. Fucking hell. So let's see where the Sith Academy is. It's like 20 meters away from the colony we landed in. The Sith trooper guarding the door tells us that if we want entry, we have to be let in by a prospective Sith or Yuthira Ban, a woman who hangs around at the cantina. Let's just use the Force to...
I have been conditioned to resist mental persuasion, citizen. Please, do not attempt that again.
Okay, this is just ridiculous. Why is it that the really important moments that the subjects reject the mind trick? This breaks immersion. And of course, we meet another prick. We come across some guys standing in front of the gate, and they are fucking starving. And the Aqualash of the group says a student named Mikul put him up to it. So we go to Mikul, and he's like, oh, those guys? I'm just letting them starve to death. It's fun stuff. Wow. So of course after he leaves, gloating about the dinner he'll be having, we go talk to them and tell him Mikul is tricking them. He'll never let them into the academy. One of them collapses, the other refuses to leave his spot, and the third somehow has enough energy to run back to the colony. So we go to the cantina, dubbed the drunk side, and come across Yuthira Ban, the woman I mentioned earlier. And when we ask her about acceptance, she goes on monologuing about how great the Sith are. Problem is, it sounds really drab. You just crave power and kill each other. It's fucking cartoony bad guy shit. I hate it how people say that the First Order are just blatant bad guys. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise!
It just isn't fair.
And of course, when I decide to think it over, we get not just one, but 2 encounters with Sith who want to kill us. The first encounter is a group of students who decide they want to celebrate acceptance by killing us. Idiots. The second is an arrogant guy who decides to try and kill us because reasons. Idiot. So of course we get medallions from both these encounters, but we only need one. So we go back to Yuthura Ban. But although admitting that we took it from another student, she brushes us off by saying that we showed independent thinking and stuff like that. So on to the Academy we go. We meet the Master of the Academy, a guy named Uthar. And when we ask us what we thought of the Sith beforehand, we just give him the answer he would expect. He goes on about how the dark side is good and the light side is bad, blah 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 blah. More boring exposition, let's just get to the important shit. Uthar introduces us to our competition, who happen to be the 3 pricks from earlier, Shardan, Lasho, and Mikkel. What a coincidence. I hate how people shit on me for the Force Awakens writing being purely coincidental. So what is this game? Which does the same thing, get nothing but praise!
It just isn't fair.
So anyways, us in our competition will be competing to graduate Sith Academy, and only one of us will be selected. To be selected, we must earn enough prestige or something. Basically do enough shit to impress Uthar. The first one to tell him the Sith Code will be rewarded, and for the rest, we have to figure it out ourselves. And so, on with gaining prestige. Then on our way out, Yuthura tells us about her plot to overthrow Master Uthar, as is Sith tradition. So of course, when she tells us about her plan, we go to Master Uthar and do the code thing. And then we tell him about Uthara's plan. Uthar is like, great job. Give insert name here a datapad to poison Uthara's bath. And then we go back to Yuthura and reveal that we essentially stabbed her in the back. She's pissed but decides not to kill us for some reason. She's like, go put it to face to Uthar's bed and then we'll wake him up. So we go and do that. Along the way, we find an interesting data pad. On our way out to get some prestige when we come across Karth's son, Dustil. You see, back on Kashyyyk, there was a random encounter with Karth's friend, Jordo, who informed Karth that his son is still alive and that he had joined the Sith. Well, come meeting Dustil, who's pissed about seeing his dad again. Can't say I blame him. Dustil is a pretty shitty name to call your son. It has the word dust in it. But it's actually for a reason other than that. Dustil is pissed because Karth was needed at war and he wasn't there when he got captured. Basically, Dustil doesn't care about his dad anymore. Tells him to fuck off because he's got a new family. The Sith, bitch. Oh, I like this guy. He's shitting on Karth, his dad, and a terrible character. Good to see it's not genetic this time, unlike Bastila and her mother. Remember the datapad I mentioned before? Well, when Dustil wants us to prove that the Sith are evil, we show him a notepad of Master Uthar's journal, where it reveals that Uthar killed Dustil's friend way back when. What idiot would reveal something like that in his journal? Journals get read all the time by peeping pricks. Like this one time I wet the bed every night for a month when I was 13 and put it in my diary. My friend Bobby had a peep at it and shared it with everyone I knew. I ended up shooting him, then cutting him up, and then dumping pieces of his body by the Hudson River. But don't tell nobody. His disappearance is still a mystery to the cops to this day. So of course we convinced Dustil to leave the Sith Academy. He says that he'll go tell his friends about what happened, and that he'll go back to Telos. When we talk to Karth about it, he's happy. Well, good for him, he's still a shit character. So we go talk to Lasho, who Yuthura told us has a plan to get a Jedi holocron. So essentially we talk to Lasho and offer our help in getting a Jedi holocron. She's like, sure! And then she says that she'll go summon the animal who has the holocron. So of course, when we go meet her, we kill the 2 Kata beasts together. Then kill her when she refuses to give us credit. So let's go find some more prestige. During this hunt, we walk into the tomb of Tulak Horde, and after we fight animals and shit, we get gassed and an old perverted creep kidnaps us. The guy when we wake up introduces himself as Jurak Un, the old master of the academy. Fuck, as if I couldn't hate the Sith anymore. He's also got Mikkel restrained too. So he says he's gonna test us. If we get his questions right, Mikkel gets a hit. If we get his questions wrong, we get a hit. Since I'm not interested, I'll refuse all of his questions, and of course, I survive. Jork Owen is baffled that we survive all those electric shocks. Well, this is an RPG, stupid. We can survive way more attacks than fucking Super Mario. So he decides to let Mikkel free and says that he'll deal with us. But in a fortunate twist, Mikkel used the Force to free both of us and kill the old bastard. Yes! Too bad that's one of the few times we'll get satisfaction in this game. It's fucking boring. After a talk with Miko, he tells us that he's grateful and he'll go back to the academy to get some rest. So that's another task done. Next off, there's a malfunctioning droid that hates noise, so we go destroy it. Easy. Then we go into the caves aside from all the animals. We got a bunch of renegade Sith who are hiding in the caves because they refused an order from higher powers. So we offer to help by killing the Rancor ripoff. And another thing, why is it that people shit on me for stealing aesthetics from other Star Wars movies? Yet when this game does the same thing, it gets nothing but praise!
It just isn't fair.
So we kill it and we go back to the renegades who thank us, and we can easily lie to Uthar. So also, we go into the tomb of Argenta Paul, which is probably the best of all the side quests, but that's really not saying much. After we rob Paul's tomb, we come across the man himself, who is a Force ghost. And what do I think?
It pisses me off!
Why? Well, let me answer your question with another question. Why does this game get a free pass for bringing Sith boards back to life, yet when I did the same thing with Palpatine, I get nothing but scorn?
It just isn't fair.
So after we do his sword test, he lets us go. On his way out, Shardan demands we give him Argenta Paul's sword, and of course we give him the wrong sword, since Paul had 3 for some reason. When we go back to the academy, Shardan gets killed for bringing Uthar a forgery. Unlike us, where we impress Uthar enough that he decides that we win. And what did it take? 2 dead students? Jesus. So anyways, on to the next day. We do the final test, and when we leave, Shardan's body is still there. What the hell? You know the body's gonna stink the place if you don't get rid of it, you idiots. But let's just forget that. When the final test comes, both Uthar and Euthura tell us to go find a Sith lightsaber and a star map. So with that, we go kill the discount Rancors where we get 2 grenades, a fire and a cold grenade. So we use the cold grenade on the acid pool, leading to it freezing and making it walkable. We open the star map, get the lightsaber, which we can't customize, fuck off, and we meet the pair walking out. Basically, Uthar says that we get a final test. We get to kill Euthura, as expected. And Euthura says that we stand with her. And basically we have to choose. So we choose Euthura and kill Uthar. And then she turns on us. Wow, if I knew that, I would have sided with Uthar otherwise. Why is it we get dark side points for siding with Uthar again? Whatever, we defeat her and spare her life. And with minimal convincing, we tell her to quit being a Sith. Seems like I done good, right? Nope, that was the biggest mistake I could have made. Because now everyone in the academy is out to kill you. God damn it. Well, at least we're nearly sort of at the end of the game. Let's just get this over with in the next episode. Until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes? Even something as great as Star Wars can turn to the dark side.
No!
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 reasons why the KOTOR games suck. So when we last left off, we finally pinpointed the location of the Star Forge. Normally you would expect for the game to be nearly over, but instead, BioWare opted to pad out the game. This all starts with Karth sending a message to the Republic fleet, which doesn't make sense. Can you just send an email to a fucking space fleet? When would a fleet have time to read Karth's message? They probably have billions to process on the way. I hate how people shit on me for having no explanation for how Lando got the support of many people to fight on Exegol. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So anyways, after the lousiest turret section in the history of video games, we have a rough landing on the planet below the sun powering the Star Forge. But despite the rough landing being a CG cutscene, they do a piss poor job making it look like a rough landing. It just looks like any other landing. Just look.
Another happy landing.
So now that we're stuck here, we'll need to find engine parts, and mission detects power fluctuations coming from an ancient temple, so our only option is to find parts and turn whatever powers at the temple off. Coming out of the Ebon Hawk, we come across some goggle-eyed aliens, similar to the hologram on Kashyyyk. They see us and attack us, no questions, they just attack. After we kill them, some Duros pop out of nowhere and thank us for killing the natives. So point is, we go navigate across the island, during which I was asking myself, oh no, how are we gonna get to the Star Forge now? Then out of nowhere a voice said,
I can take you there.
Sorry, no, that didn't happen. I was only trying to get a laugh out of this bore-fest of a game. Can it really be called a game, even? Games are supposed to be fun. This is one of those games that tell you to make your own fun instead of organically creating fun scenarios. And since this game has no multiplayer or co-op or whatever, this shallow excuse for a game will put you to sleep within an hour. Dialogue boring, get to the space battles, which there are only 2 of in this game, at the start and at the end. It's pathetic. There isn't much to do on this island except roam around. You'll either come across one of 2 factions on this island. In my playthrough, I came across the Rakata Elders. These guys are at war against the One. The game establishes that the Elders, good. The One, bad. Now why do I get the feeling it's supposed to be the other way around? Because this game refuses to understand morality. They give you dark side points for good decisions and vice versa. So they tell us that back when we were still Revan, whatever that means, we and Malik promised to help them, but instead cheated them. So they'll say that they'll only help us if we do a chore for them. This consists of going on another rampage in the One's base to rescue a group of scouts. We accept because what else are we supposed to do? And run all the way to the other base, where the One's troops attack us on sight. We go on our classic Grand Theft Auto rampage, killing every alien in sight. Also, the game leaves a gigantic plot hole of how the Rakata are breeding Rancors if Rancors aren't native to Rakata Prime. Guess they were too lazy to make new animals. So point is, we confront the One, who pulls a lever and gets his Rancors to kill us. Joke's on him. We find some ship parts that we'll need, and then we talk to the sole surviving scout, who tells us he'll run back to the Elders on his own. The game just hopes you ignore that he would realistically collapse given his injuries, but whatever. I hate how people complain that Finn endured nothing more than a torn jacket after being cut through the spine. So why does this game, which is the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
We return to the Elders, who decide to help us again. He tells us that some of his dudes will do a ritual to open the door to the ancient temple, the place where I have to deactivate the gravity field thing, whatever's keeping the tractor beam online. So we have to do this alone. Oh boy, I can't wait. But before the Elders can finish the ritual to get the door open, Jolie and Juhani show up, just being like, we want to help. And even though it's Rakata tradition to go in alone or something, after we barely put an argument to let us accept help, the Rakata start chanting for several hours. After those hours, the Republic fleet still hasn't shown up, and the Rakata open the temple entrance to where 3 of us enter the temple. Entering the temple, we basically go on another rampage. No variety, since we fought all these enemies a million times before. Fuck the idiots who thought this was acceptable to put in a video game. This isn't fun. It's extremely repetitive, and most of all, it's completely boring. Basically, this game wastes your time by forcing you to go down to the lower levels and doing a puzzle. Oh Jesus, I hate puzzles. So I spend hours, not minutes, figuring out how to unlock the door. You basically have to do a dance arcade pattern thingamajig and figure out which patterns to step on. It's truly a work of art on how much I wanted to die doing this puzzle. After a long time of random steps, we finally get the door to open. I better hope the reward is worth it. Nope, all it does is give you access to the upper floor. What's up on the up floor? It's Bastila, goddammit. She's fallen to the dark side. Of course, we don't care. Only if you're an idiot who doesn't appreciate good games and only find emotion in garbage like the prequels. Especially this prequel. Prequel bad. So somehow a long time being tortured convinced Bastila to be evil. How the fuck does torture make you evil? Wouldn't it just give Bastila some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder after being rescued? I would have just expected Bastila to bluff. You know what? On second thought, a snarky bitch like Bastila fits right in. Why do I even care about talking about this game anymore? So after a fight with Bastila, she tries to convince us to join her and overthrow Malik to become the new Sith Lord. No thanks, I'm trying to restore Taylor Gray's likeness, thanks. So we refuse the offer and she runs off, gets in her ship and flies off. I think we should check out Taylor Gray's likeness now. See how far we've gone. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I knew I could fix this. Taylor Gray will... Oh wait, I killed him. He's dead. Maybe I should have taken up on Bastila's offer. I mean, Taylor was the Sith Lord after all. Bleh, who cares? The game's nearly over. So we deactivate the tractor beam, which isn't going to be turned on during the space battle for some reason. We go back to the Ebon Hawk, talk about Bastila's capture, and then we go and participate in the space battle. Just kidding, we have to board the Starforge. Karth receives a callback message from Admiral Dodonna, the ancestor of Jan Dodonna from A New Hope. Why can I not get free passes for making everyone possess a gifted lineage?
It just isn't fair.
And you know, if Carl Fuckfordson survived the attack on Dantooine, then at least include him in the final battle. Don't leave his fate open to interpretation until the sequel comes out. I hate how people complain that I left The Force Awakens on too open a cliffhanger. So why does this game, which does the same thing, get nothing but praise?
It just isn't fair.
So instead, we get the Yoda clone tell Karth about the plan. Wow. You're only now discussing the plan right before this dangerous, high-stakes battle? These jackasses must be living on planet Dumbass. Whatever, so somehow the Abin Hawk lands safely on the Starforge. This segment of the game is just fighting wave after wave. Boring and uninspired, that's the best way to describe it. First, you fight droids, then Dark Jedi and soldiers. I really hate this game's guts. We have endured through its horrible design, and it has the audacity to slow us down with so many enemies. What idiot thought this was a good idea? Whoever designed this needs to be hung immediately for making the most insufferable wave segment in a video game. Superman 64 is a better game than this. Anyways, we get to Bastila, who is using her force powers to influence the skills of those in the battle. She gets out of her force state, is somehow able to freeze both the companions I brought with me, but of course, she can't freeze me. Golly gee. So we fight her like 3 times and pause in between those strikes. At the end, since I hate myself, or my character more like, I decide my character really likes Bastila and decides to romance her. You see, earlier in the game, you can constantly flirt with her and be witty. I've had a lot of complaints about her, but she sure is pretty, but an ugly personality ruins a pretty face. Bastila is a tough nut to crack. It's possible to get her to kiss you, but good luck having the skill to carefully choose your dialect options so you'll get to make out with her. You'll be having to look up a guide if you want any affection from her like I did. So anyways, on to Malak. We confront him and kill him. There's a lot of dialogue to go along with it, but it all doesn't matter. It leads to the same outcome. You defeat him, he talks a bit, and then he dies, becoming one with the Force and shit. The following cutscene has Karth and Bastila congratulate us, and a scene after that has the Republic give us a medal, and now apparently everyone knows that Revan is still alive. This is just ridiculous. Revan would immediately be tried and executed for his crimes against the galaxy, but whatever, the game just hopes you ignore that. And that was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This game was fucking horrible. Where do I even begin? This game had one of the worst stories I've experienced in an RPG. The combat was just a turn-based mess, and everything in between made me choke on my own food. This story is ridiculous. The plot is blatantly predictable. The twist could have, and honestly should have, been weaved into the story a lot better. The characters are horrible, and this game likes to think that its story is better than it actually is. It's like a 5-year-old road. There's certain contrivances that the game hopes you ignore, plus the weak cutscenes didn't help. This game is a lot of telling and no show. This game's story is just talking and talking and talking and talking, and they never take time to show anything. It's one of the most insufferable stories I've ever experienced. Final verdict, this game is an automatic 0 out of 10. Don't play it outside of an endurance test, or if someone paid you good money to play it. It's a stale waste of time. Now before I close this video, I have something to say. If you read the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary, you'll know that Revan was recently made canon. Let me say that we are going to take this somewhere. You see, I've always wanted to improve all the characters in the old timeline and make them new and improved, and Revan is no different. He'll be going through what we call the Disney treatment. Essentially, we're going to make him a better version of what he was in this piece of shit. But don't worry, Revan is in good hands now.
We won't butcher him and turn him into a laughingstock. All is well. Everything will be okay. He is safe. We will look out for him and care for him.